You've been running towards something your entire life, but what if the thing you're searching for is waiting for you to stop? There's a restlessness that lives inside most of us, a quiet hum beneath the surface of everything we do. We wake up with it. We carry it through our days. We take it to bed with us at night. It's the feeling that something is missing, that somewhere out there, just beyond our reach, is the answer we've been looking for. So we move, we plan, we strive. We fill our calendars and our minds and our lives with noise, believing that if we just do enough, become enough, achieve enough, we'll finally arrive, we'll finally feel whole. But here's the strange thing: the more we chase, the further away it seems. The more we grasp, the emptier our hands become. And in those rare moments when we pause, when the noise fades, and the world goes quiet, we feel it even more. That ache, that longing, that sense that we've been running in circles, searching for something we can't even name. You are not broken for feeling this way. You are not weak for wanting answers. This restlessness is not a flaw, it's a sign, a signal from somewhere deeper. It's your soul trying to get your attention. And what it's trying to tell you is this: you are looking in the wrong direction. The mind is a magnificent tool. It can plan, analyze, solve problems, build worlds. But it was never designed to find peace. The mind is a seeker by nature. It thrives on questions, on goals, on the next thing. And so it convinces you that peace is somewhere else. That clarity is just one more step away. That if you could only figure it out, control it, perfect it, then you'd be free. But the mind cannot give you what it does not possess. And what it does not possess is stillness. Think about water for a moment. When a lake is disturbed by wind, by stones, by movement, its surface ripples and distorts. You cannot see through it clearly. You cannot see your own reflection. But when the water becomes still, everything changes. The surface mirrors the sky. The depths become visible. Clarity emerges not because something was added, but because the disturbance stopped. You are like that lake. And life, the truth of who you are, the meaning you seek, the peace you long for, is already there, beneath the surface. But you cannot see it while you're in motion. You cannot hear it over the noise. Life reveals itself to stillness, not to effort, not to force, not to the endless mental gymnastics of trying to figure it all out. Life opens when you stop demanding that it show itself on your terms. When you stop insisting that you already know what you're looking for. There's a story from the Sufi tradition about a man who spent his entire life searching for a hidden treasure. He traveled to distant lands, studied ancient maps, consulted with mystics and scholars. He exhausted himself in this pursuit, and then one day, broken and weary, he returned home. And there, beneath the floorboards of his own house, he found the treasure. It had been there all along, waiting, silent, patient. You are that man, and the treasure you seek is not somewhere else. It's not in the next achievement, the next insight, the next version of yourself. It's here. It's now. But you've been too busy searching to notice. Most of us live our lives like we're perpetually late for something. We rush through our mornings, our meals, our conversations. We treat the present moment like an obstacle to get past, rather than the only place where life actually exists. We tell ourselves, once I finish this, once I get there, once I have that, then I'll be able to relax. Then I'll be able to breathe. But that moment never comes, because the mind always finds something new to chase. The goalpost keeps moving, and before you know it, an entire life has passed in this state of perpetual postponement. You've been so busy preparing for life that you forgot to live it. And here's the painful truth. You can't think your way into presence. You can't strategize your way into peace. These are not destinations you arrive at through effort. They are what remain when effort ceases, when the striving stops, when the grasping opens into release. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the absence of resistance. It's what happens when you stop fighting with reality, when you stop arguing with what is, when you allow life to be exactly as it is, without needing to fix it, change it, or understand it first. The philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders." Read that again. To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Not the mind that has all the answers. Not the mind that has figured everything out. The mind that is still. The mind that has stopped demanding. The mind that has learned to listen instead of shout. Because when you become still, truly still, something extraordinary happens. The boundaries between you and life begin to dissolve. The separation you've always felt, the sense of being isolated inside your own skin, starts to fade. And you realize that you were never separate from life at all. You are life, experiencing itself, knowing itself, revealing itself. But you have to stop long enough to notice. So let me ask you, when was the last time you were truly still? Not just physically motionless, but mentally quiet, emotionally open, present without agenda. When was the last time you sat with yourself, no phone, no distraction, no task, and simply allowed yourself to be? If you can't remember, you're not alone. But you are missing something, something essential, something that no amount of achievement or accumulation can replace. And it's waiting for you, right now. In the stillness you've been avoiding, there's something we need to talk about, something uncomfortable, something most of us spend our entire lives trying to avoid. You are not in control, and you never were, I know. I know that's not what you want to hear, because the belief that you can control life, that you should be able to control, it is woven into the very fabric of how we've been taught to live. We're told to make plans, set goals, work harder, be smarter, take charge of our destiny, and there's nothing wrong with intention, nothing wrong with direction or purpose or effort. But somewhere along the way, intention became grasping, purpose became pressure, and effort became a desperate attempt to force life into a shape that makes us feel safe. We've confused aliveness with control, and in doing so, we've made ourselves exhausted. Because here's what actually happens: you plan your day, and something unexpected interrupts it. You work toward a goal, and the path shifts beneath your feet. You love someone deeply, and they change, or leave, or reveal themselves to be different than you thought. You build your identity around something, a career, a belief, a version of yourself, and then life strips it away. And each time this happens, you feel betrayed, because you were taught that if you do everything right, life will cooperate. That if you're good enough, smart enough, disciplined enough, you'll be able to avoid pain, uncertainty, loss. But that was never the deal. That was never how this works. Life is not a machine you operate. It's a river you move through. And the river does not ask for your permission. It does not consult your plans. It simply flows. And you can either fight against it, trying to swim upstream, trying to hold back the current with your bare hands, or you can learn to move with it. Stillness is not passivity. It's not giving up. It's not resignation or defeat. Stillness is the deep recognition that there are forces at play far greater than your small, anxious will. And that when you stop resisting those forces, when you stop trying to micromanage every outcome, you discover something miraculous. Life knows what it's doing, and it's been carrying you all along. Think about your breath for a moment. Right now, you're breathing. You've been breathing your entire life, but you're not doing it. It's happening. Your heart is beating. Your cells are regenerating. Your body is performing a symphony of coordination so complex, so intelligent, that no scientist can fully replicate it. And you're not controlling any of it. You're not thinking it into existence. So why do you believe that the rest of your life requires your constant intervention? Why do you believe that without your endless planning and worrying and strategizing, everything will fall apart? What if the same intelligence that breathes your body, that spins galaxies into existence, that orchestrates the turning of seasons and the migration of birds, is also moving through your life? What if you are not the author trying to write the story, but the story unfolding itself? This doesn't mean you have no agency. It doesn't mean your choices don't matter. It means something far more profound. Your choices are part of the unfolding. Your actions arise from the same source as everything else. And when you stop trying to force outcomes, when you stop gripping life with white knuckles, you discover that your actions become clearer, more natural, more aligned. Because you're no longer acting from fear. You're no longer moving from the desperate need to control. You're simply responding, participating, dancing with life rather than wrestling it to the ground. The Sufi poet Rumi said, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray." But you cannot feel that pull when you're drowning in noise. You cannot hear that quiet guidance when your mind is screaming instructions. You cannot be drawn toward anything when you're too busy dragging yourself in every direction. Stillness is where you feel the pull. Stillness is where the path reveals itself, not the path you think you should take, the path that is already opening before you. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to control everything is the moment you discover your true power. Because real power is not domination. It's not bending the world to your will. Real power is presence, clarity, the ability to see what is actually happening rather than what you're afraid might happen. When you're still, you see the difference between a real threat and a phantom, between something that requires your action and something that's simply your mind spinning stories. You stop reacting to every ripple and start responding to what matters. You become fluid, adaptable. Unshakable not because nothing can touch you, but because you're no longer clinging to the illusion that things should stay the same. The tree that bends in the storm survives. The tree that refuses to move breaks. So much of our suffering comes from this refusal. This insistence that life should be other than it is, that people should behave differently, that circumstances should align with our preferences, that the past should have unfolded another way. But life doesn't care about your preferences. It doesn't consult your opinions. And the more you fight this reality, the more you exhaust yourself in a battle you cannot win. Stillness is the white flag you've been too afraid to raise. But it's not surrender to defeat. It's surrender to truth. To what is. To the flow of life that has been trying to carry you all along. And when you finally stop fighting, when you finally allow yourself to be held by something larger than your own will, you discover something you never expected. You were never alone. You were never unsupported. You were always part of something vast, something intelligent, something loving. You just couldn't feel it over the noise of your own resistance. Life has been whispering to you this entire time. But whispers can't compete with screaming. So maybe it's time to get quiet. To stop shouting at the universe and start listening to what it's been trying to tell you. Because the answer you've been searching for isn't out there. It's in the silence between your thoughts. In the space between your breaths. In the stillness you've been running from. Let's talk about the part of you that hates everything I'm saying right now. The part that's reading these words and thinking, but if I stop trying, nothing will get done. If I stop planning, I'll fall behind. If I become still, I'll lose my edge. I'll become passive, irrelevant. I'll disappear. That voice. That's not you. That's your ego. And it's terrified. The ego is not evil. It's not your enemy. It's simply a collection of thoughts, beliefs, and identities that you've accumulated over the years. It's the voice that says, I am this, and I am not that. It's the part of you that needs to be someone, to be seen, to matter in the eyes of the world. And for most of your life, you've believed that voice is who you are. You've confused the narrator for the character, the costume for the actor, the wave for the ocean. But here's what the ego fears most: stillness. Because in stillness, the ego dissolves. Not because you've defeated it or transcended it, but because you've stopped feeding it. You've stopped giving it the constant fuel of thoughts, judgments, comparisons, stories about yourself. In stillness, there is no you to defend, no identity to maintain, no story to uphold. There is only awareness, presence, being. And this terrifies the ego. Because if you're not the story, if you're not the identity, if you're not the accumulation of achievements and failures and beliefs, then what are you? The answer is both simple and impossible to grasp with the mind. You are what remains when the story stops. You are the awareness in which all experience arises, the space in which thoughts appear and disappear, the silence between sounds, the stillness beneath movement. But the ego doesn't want you to know this. Because the moment you realize you are not the ego loses its grip. It loses its power. And so it will do everything it can to keep you busy, distracted, identified with the story. It will tell you that stillness is laziness, that peace is complacency, that if you stop striving, you'll lose yourself. When the truth is the opposite, you'll find yourself. The self that was always there, beneath the noise. This is the great paradox of spiritual awakening. To find yourself, you must lose yourself. To know who you are, you must let go of who you think you are. The Zen master asks, show me your original face, the face you had before your parents were born. What does that even mean? It means, who are you without your story? Without your past, your accomplishments, your wounds, your beliefs. Who are you when all of that falls away? Most people never ask this question. Most people spend their entire lives building and defending and refining their identity. They collect experiences, titles, relationships, possessions, all in the service of this fictional character called me. And then one day, something happens. A loss, a failure, a moment of grace, and the whole structure collapses. And in that collapse, in that raw, naked moment of not knowing, something real appears. You, not the story of you, not the idea of you, not the defended, protected, curated version of you, just you, aware, present, alive. And here's the strange part, this version of you, the one without all the layers, without all the protection, is not diminished. It's not less than, it's actually more alive, more connected, more real. Because you're no longer using all your energy to maintain a facade. You're no longer constantly monitoring yourself, judging yourself, comparing yourself to some imaginary standard. You're simply here, being, and that is enough. The spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle says, "You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind the thoughts." But this isn't just philosophy. This is something you can directly experience. Right now, notice that you're reading these words. Notice the space around you, the sounds, the feeling of your body. Notice that there is an awareness present that registers all of this. That awareness is not thinking about itself. It's not commenting on itself. It's simply aware. That's you. The real you. The you that existed before you learned language, before you developed personality, before you created all the stories about who you should be. And that awareness, that presence, is completely at peace. It's not worried about the future. It's not replaying the past. It's not trying to be anything other than what it is. It is still. Not because it's suppressing anything, but because it has no conflict with what is. This is what the mystics point to. This is what meditation reveals. This is what every spiritual tradition, in its own language, tries to help you remember. You are not the storm. You are the sky in which the storm appears. The thoughts will come and go. The emotions will rise and fall. The circumstances of your life will shift and change. But beneath all of it, there is something unchanging, something untouched by the chaos, something that simply witnesses it all with quiet, compassionate awareness. That is your true nature. That is what has been here all along, waiting for you to notice. But you can't think your way to it. You can't achieve it or earn it or become worthy of it, because you already are it. You've just been too busy pretending to be something else. The ego will fight this realization. It will say, "This is too simple. This can't be it. There must be more. I need to do more, be more, understand more." But that's just the ego's last stand. Its final attempt to maintain control. To keep you locked in the cycle of seeking, striving, becoming. And the invitation, the gentle, patient invitation that life is always offering, is to stop. To see through the game. To recognize that you've been complete all along. Not perfect. Not finished. Not without room for growth or change or evolution. But complete. Whole. Enough. And when you finally stop running from yourself, when you finally come home to the stillness that you are, you discover something unexpected. Life becomes effortless. Not because nothing happens, but because you're no longer at war with what happens. You move through the world with ease, not because you control everything, but because you're no longer trying to, and that is freedom. So what now? What do you actually do with all of this? Here's the beautiful, frustrating truth: nothing and everything. You don't need to become someone who meditates for hours a day. You don't need to retreat to a monastery or abandon your responsibilities. You don't need to adopt new beliefs or practices or spiritual identities. You just need to remember, again and again, moment by moment, to come back to stillness, to come back to now. Because the mind is addicted to complexity. It wants a system, a technique, a path with clear steps. But stillness is not complex. It's the simplest thing in the world. So simple that the mind overlooks it, dismisses it, thinks it can't possibly be the answer. But it is. It's the only answer. Because every other answer is a detour. So here is what it actually looks like in practice. You're overwhelmed, drowning in tasks and deadlines and demands. And instead of powering through, instead of adding one more thing to the list, you stop. You take 3 breaths, slow, intentional. You feel your feet on the ground. You notice the space around you. You acknowledge I am here. This moment is enough. You're lying awake at night, replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow. And instead of fighting the thoughts, instead of trying to force yourself to sleep, you become still. You observe the thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. You don't engage them. You don't believe them. You just watch. And slowly, the storm subsides. You're in a conversation, and someone says something that triggers you. And instead of reacting immediately, instead of defending or attacking, you pause. You feel the heat rising in your body. You notice the urge to respond. And in that pause, that tiny space of stillness, you find a choice, a freedom. You can respond with clarity instead of reactivity. You're scrolling through your phone, consuming content, numbing out. And you catch yourself. You notice the emptiness beneath the distraction. And instead of judging yourself, instead of spiraling into guilt, you simply put the phone down. You sit. You breathe. You let yourself feel what you've been avoiding. This is the practice. Not some grand spiritual achievement, just this. Small moments of returning, of remembering, of choosing stillness over noise. And at first, it will feel like you're fighting the current. The mind will pull you back into its patterns. The world will demand your attention. The ego will insist that this isn't enough, that you need to do more. But if you keep returning gently, without judgment, something begins to shift. The stillness becomes more accessible. The peace becomes more frequent. And slowly, gradually, you start to live from a different place. Not from fear. Not from lack. Not from the desperate need to control or prove or become. But from presence, from trust. From the deep knowing that you are held by something far greater than your small, anxious self. You start to notice synchronicities, doors opening that you never saw before, people appearing with exactly what you needed, solutions emerging from the silence. Not because you've unlocked some magical power, but because you're finally paying attention. You're finally listening to the intelligence that has been guiding you all along. Life reveals itself to stillness. Not occasionally, always. Every answer you've ever received came in a moment of quiet. Every breakthrough, every insight, every moment of clarity, they didn't come from more thinking. They came when the thinking stopped, when the noise quieted, when you finally created space for something deeper to emerge. This is not a metaphor. This is how it actually works. The universe is not withholding from you. You are withholding from yourself by staying in constant motion, by refusing to be still long enough to receive what's being offered. So the practice is simple: create space, daily, consistently, not as a task to check off, but as a return to sanity, to truth, to yourself. It can be 5 minutes in the morning before the day begins. It can be a walk without your phone. It can be sitting in your car for a few breaths before you go inside. It can be any moment when you consciously choose presence over distraction. And in that space, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to achieve some special state or have some profound experience. You just need to be, to allow, to rest in the awareness that you are. Because here's what you'll discover: stillness is not empty. It's full. It's alive. It's teeming with intelligence and creativity and love. All the things you've been chasing are already present in the stillness. You just couldn't feel them over the noise. Peace is not a reward for getting your life in order. It's the foundation from which a meaningful life emerges. Clarity is not something you achieve through more thinking. It's what remains when thinking subsides. Love is not something you find outside yourself. It's what you are when you stop defending, when you stop resisting, when you open to what is. And all of this is available right now, in this moment, in the stillness that has always been here, waiting patiently for you to notice. So maybe today, just for a moment, you stop running. You stop searching. You stop trying to figure it all out. And you allow yourself to be still, not because you've given up, but because you've finally understood. The thing you've been searching for is not somewhere else. It's not in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next version of yourself. It's here. It's now. It's in the quiet space between your thoughts, in the gap between breaths, in the stillness you've been avoiding your entire life. And when you finally arrive here, when you finally stop and turn inward, you'll discover what the mystics have been trying to tell you for thousands of years. You were never lost. You were never broken. You were never separate from the peace you sought. You were just moving too fast to notice. But now you're still, and in this stillness, life reveals itself, not as a concept, not as a belief, but as a lived, breathing truth. Welcome home.